If you could spend just 12 minutes with every new client in order to understand exactly what movements they should and should not be doing in your gym, and then have a plan for them to move better and stay out of pain, would you do that? Of course you would. Join Brett Jones from Functional Movement Systems and me as we discuss how you can do exactly that. Welcome to the Strength Coach Collective, a podcast brought to you by Two Brain Business. We are here to help advance the strength and conditioning coaching community by bringing you a wide range of experts in the field. Join our group at strengthcoachcollective.com. For today's episode, I'm your host, Kenny Markwardt. Thanks for joining me. This is great to have you. We're actually meeting for the first time, so we're just catching up a little bit before the podcast. But man, I'm excited to share your background and your perspectives with our audience. So let's start there. Let's talk about your Mount Rushmore of fitness that you've been a part of as you've gotten going here.
Yeah, so I have a background as a certified athletic trainer. Got into actually, from 95 to 97, I was actually working with Gray Cook and at my training room and in his clinics. And that's, even before the FMS days, and was at the first ever FMS workshop in somewhere around 99. And ran a hospital fitness center for 5 years. And during that time, got certified at the second ever kettlebell certification in the States in February of 2002. Started teaching with Pavel and teaching certifications in April of 2003. So I've been, in and around the industry for a long time, and started teaching specifically with more with functional movement systems and Gray around 2005, 2006. Which led to the development of the Secrets of video series, but also the level 2 curriculum within the FMS. And so have spent, a good bit of time traveling, teaching, doing all of this for quite a while.
That's awesome. Let's get into the FMS. Just a background for people, like what it is. We'll get into the specifics of all of it that is offered through the FMS, but just as a quick overview.
Yeah, so functional movement systems and the functional movement screen in particular, it's just a great way to capture those opportunities to clear the road for the person you're going to be working with. So, the first principle and the tagline of the company is move well, move often. And move well means you have some sort of standard for what that means, right? You have a baseline that you can come back to and you can repeat and you can work with folks. To put it in a kind of a simple statement, do you, or does the person you're working with move well enough to have a positive response from the training and stress that you're going to put them under? If we take seeds, whatever type, corn, whatever, and we drop them on the carpet here, we're not going to grow corn, right? But if I go and I prepare the land and I, fertilize and till and water and put the seeds there, I get to have corn. Movement and exercise is not all that dissimilar. We come in and think, well, I need to work hard to, get fit and, I've got these goals that I'm going to go after. Cool. Do you move well enough to have a positive response from the stress that you're going to be placed under? We're now into February, so most of the New Year's resolution people that joined a gym have now moved on to something else. And I think the unspoken thing that happens there is exercise didn't feel good. Mm. They ended up, could just be routine soreness, could have been a sore knee, sore shoulder, sore back, something got irritated. Now, that could be simple loading mistakes, right? Too much, too soon, too often. Sure, that's absolutely part of it. But what if just from a real fundamental movement standpoint, let's say they were trying to do uphill walking on the treadmill because they wanted to burn some extra calories and they heard uphill walking on the treadmill was good. But their ankles are restricted. Well, good luck with uphill walking because you have to have a good bit of ankle dorsiflexion to successfully walk uphill and not have any problems. They're trying to go overhead, bad shoulder mobility, T-spine's locked up, whatever the case may be. So do you move well enough to have a positive response from the stress that we're going to place you under? Most often, when you screen somebody, you find out there's some areas of opportunity. There's going to be a restricted ankle that we can take care of. There's going to be T-spine mobility or shoulder mobility to adjust, hip mobility to put it in a simple bucket. Could have some issues just from a stability and patterning standpoint, like your ability to just coordinate stabilizing certain positions and movements. So the question I have for folks that because I'm going to stop there for a second because I have the next thing. But so I think from a move well, move often. Do you move well enough to have a positive response from the stress that you're going to be placed under? I know over the years of doing this with people, when I start with a movement screen, that is preceded by a detailed history. We're still doing our paperwork. We're still doing our detailed history. And in that, maybe you start finding some things that are lining up. History of I sprained my ankle a bunch of times when I played sports in high school. Okay, well, guess what we just found? That ankle, both ankles or that ankle, isn't moving as well as the other side. So let's take that off the table first. And people, you're developing this really individualized approach that people really appreciate.
Yes.
And they like that. Okay, so wow, this person actually cared about how I'm moving and my history and these things that have bothered me in the past. And now I have these things to do to move this in a positive direction. That's way better than just bringing somebody in, giving them a beat down so that they'll be sore the next day and saying, this is, we're going to look at how hard we're going to make you work and look at how, tough we're going to make you.
Yep.
Strategy, the previous strategy is better.
Yes. It sounds obvious. It sounds very obvious, but I think we're all trying to move in that direction. I think that the industry needs to be better about that for sure.
Definitely.
One of the things is like one of my favorite little nuances for the FMS is your logo, and it's FMS and it's move well, period, move often. And it's a super subtle thing, but it's move well first, then move often. And again, the subtlety of that was lost on me. I don't know when that was explained to me, but I was like, wait, that's great. And then it's the whole thing of patterns of if you move often poorly, you're just refining these patterns and you're just going to make it worse and worse and worse and worse, and you strengthen those patterns. So anyways, that's a good summation of what a lot of what you just said. It's like, let's move well first.
Definitely. And I think, a common pushback on running the screen and stuff like that is it runs the gamut from, well, I just watch people warm up and move, and then I see the problems and I can just address it from there. Or, I don't have time for this. I think exercise is how you correct these things. Well, if just moving was corrective, that would be same as saying, I've got a problem with my car, so I better drive it cross country because that'll fix it. The car will work out the problem as we're headed across the country.
Yeah, or it'll blow up and we'll have a much bigger problem halfway across the country.
Exactly. Yeah, that's typically the problem. And if it's just you need to learn how to exercise better, you just need to be coached through the techniques. Well, put a Formula One race car driver in that car that has a problem. It's never going to be driven better than by that Formula One race car driver. Car's still going to be broken. So like these common things that people come up with. And my question is, if I'm going to try to teach you to squat, right? You've come to me with a goal of being able to do a single leg squat, or you want to do front squats because you're interested in Olympic lifts or whatnot. Well, why wouldn't I make sure your ankles move well enough to support that movement before we take you into those movements?
Yep.
Why even challenge the problem? Because now if I don't take that off the table first and I go into trying to coach you and I see something happening like a valgus collapse, or you're not able to maintain an upright position to support the front squat. Why is that happening? That could just be you need a cue. You just need to be cued to do X, Y, or Z. Could be you got a locked up ankle. You got a lack of T-spine mobility. You've got, why wouldn't I take those things off the table first? Why wouldn't I take the 10 minutes, 15 minutes that it takes to run a screen and know that your ankles move well enough, know that you have the fundamental movements that are going to support the things that you want to train? I'd much rather put the cart behind the horse than the cart in front of the horse. And I think movement screening just functions like that. And, who's got two thumbs and is capable of deceiving themselves? This guy. We assume that we can see X, Y, and Z, but having a repeatable standard baseline that I can go back to is just it's such a powerful tool. It's just a missed opportunity to clear the fundamentals before we start really stressing that person. Now, I'm saying before we really start stressing that person. We're never not training. So don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying you've got 6 months of purgatory
100%.
before you get to train.
Yep.
We're training.
Yep.
We're just going to train things that I know you have the movement to support so that you can have a positive response to. And we're going to be clearing the fundamentals so that everything comes together. And now we're really moving forward.
Yeah, that's great. For one, what we're talking about is, like you said, it's 10 or 15 minutes tops. I mean, it's not long. If you're practiced with this, it's not an extensive thing. Two, I think it really helps with the communication with people as they experience challenging positions that as a coach, it's hard to discern why. Like, what are we doing? Like, what's happening here? And like you said, to try and do it on the fly is just a heck of a lot more challenging. And even an experienced coach, I've been doing this for 15 years. It's still hard for me to, okay, well, wait a minute. What is actually the problem here? Why can they not get into this position? Rather than understanding through the screen, oh, well, this is why. Like, I know I'm going to have this problem with them because of this thing that we uncovered. And then third, I was actually just having a conversation with my coach yesterday about this, about having to modify somebody's thing. And they were pushing back a little bit on it. And I think that the communication, there's a lot of ego in gyms, whether we want to admit it or not, by having the data to present to them to say, hey, listen, remember when we went through the screen, like you showed us a 1 on this, like this is what's happening. This is why you need to make this modification. We have it's so much less of an opinion. It's something based on the data that we can show them and say, hey, we've done this. We know this is an issue for you. We've got to modify this in this way, so that we can keep you moving better and safely and comfortably and keep you moving. So,
absolutely, and I think from a practitioner's standpoint, I use terms like areas of opportunity. Yeah, I've never told a client or a student that they're dysfunctional. Right? That's in clinical speak. If I'm speaking to another athletic trainer or physical therapist or even another FMS practitioner, I might say between the professionals, I might say, oh, watch out for this. They've got a dysfunctional leg raise. Now, to the practitioner, they know that's either asymmetrical or 1, right? So now, to your point of the communication system, between professionals, now we have a much smoother communication standpoint. Oh, why is this person deadlifting from blocks instead of from the ground? Oh, well, they have a dysfunctional leg raise. Ah, gotcha. Okay. I to me, that says, okay, they got a 1 in asymmetry. We're doing a shortened range in that deadlift for right now while they're improving their leg raise. Understood.
Yep.
Now, from the student perspective, or the client perspective, yeah. Hey, remember that thing where you laid down on your back and you had trouble lifting your leg? Yeah. That's an area of opportunity. We get you more hip mobility. You're going to be able to get into better positions for your deadlift. You're going to get in better positions for wall balls. You're going to get in better positions for a lot of things are going to open up for you as your hips open up. So for right now, we're going to deadlift from blocks. We're going to shorten that range of motion. And in between sets, I want you doing this drill.
Yes. And so often the analogy you made before about the driving across country is like the presentation is pain for for the example you're describing, which is I think a great example for a lot of coaches are familiar. Okay, let's shorten the range, but most of the time that's presenting with pain, and so then they're like, okay, well, you had pain last week, assuming this person comes back and they weren't just like, oh my gosh, exercise isn't for me, I can't do this thing.
Yep.
And then then you're okay, well, let's lift you from blocks, let's shorten the range and do the appropriate modifications. You've gotten way out in front of that. So they don't experience pain. They know what the objective is to move, and then they can progress to the appropriate lift once they're there. It's just so.
Absolutely. And you know, pain is a muddy hole that you do not want to spend time down, right? Are you moving poorly because you're in pain? Or are you in pain because you're moving poorly?
Yeah.
The only way I can answer that question is let's take the pain off the table.
Yeah.
So as a coach, as a gym owner, you want to have that tribe around you where you can say, okay, you know, Judy and Bob decided to join the gym. Judy's got knee pain. Bob's got shoulder pain. Hey, our physio comes, or our chiro, or our whoever, they come in on Tuesdays from 11 to 1. Hey, pop in. Let's get that looked at. Or, hey, physical therapist Janet, you know, we've got a relationship with them. It's a direct access state. Go see Janet. Let's make sure, you know, still come in and work out. We're going to work around this thing, but let's get that pain taken care of. Don't be afraid of that. You know, gym owners and trainers are afraid of that because what's happened 50 times in the past? They go to the doctor and they're told not to exercise for 6 months.
Right.
Yeah. Now you just lost a student, lost a client for 6 months. Well, that stinks. Yep. I get it. A client pays a bill, right? Like it's not everybody's, you know, able to just have, you know, people leave all the time and still make a living.
Right.
So you got to keep people, you know, you want people coming back and you want to develop those relationships that support that. And so building that team of massage therapists, physical therapists, chiro, whatever tribe you want to put around you, acupuncturist, and I'm good with whatever gets people, you know, moving better and staying moving. So put that team together, put that tribe together so that you can do the best for the people that you're working with. Pain, typically, we're going to avoid training that pattern.
Yep.
Right. So that might be a situation where, you know, we're either shortening that range or we're just not deadlifting for right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the key to that is that last part of that statement.
Yep.
For right now.
Correct.
Because most people hear never.
Yep.
Yeah. You shouldn't do that. I love it when people come back from a doctor and they're like, yeah, doc said no squats. Ever?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
How are you getting down to the toilet?
Yeah.
Like,
so it's going to be very hard.
My question back is, well, can we work on some, if it's to the doctor or physical therapist or whoever? So are you okay with us working on some activities of daily living? Oh yeah, activities of daily living. Good. Okay. Well, we're going to be sitting down to a box and standing back up. That's getting in and out of a chair. That's getting up and down off the toilet. It's squatting. So I'm not working on your squatting. I'm working on your activities of daily living. Right. And to have that experience of the doing the blind referral, going to the doctor, getting that, you know, don't exercise for 6 months or don't do this for forever, you know, sort of thing. Be part of the solution and not just part of the complaining. Like, when was the last time you communicated with a medical or healthcare provider and said, hey, here I am. Here's what I do. Judy, my student, has come to you with knee pain. Let's workshop. Let's work on this together. What do you want me to avoid? What do you want me to add? How can I be part of the process?
Yes.
That healthcare provider is probably going to pass out because they've never had a fitness professional come and say, hey, cool. Judy came to see you. I see your recommendations here. Can we talk about this? And what do I need to avoid? What do I need to do? Like that, most professionals they're going to be in for that conversation. And there's where avoiding the blind referral becomes important, because if you've developed a relationship with a physio, massage therapist, chiro, whatever the case may be, and now they know your intent is to do the best thing possible. I get referrals from medical professionals in the area because they know I'm going to do no harm first, and I'm going to, screen. I'm going to work on areas of opportunity. I'll get messages back of, hey, Grandpa Bob wants to press overhead, but they got some pretty bad T-spine mobility. Cool, I got that. I can take that and run with it. And so I think there's so much opportunity in using the screen, in taking this perspective of how do I get that soil fertile so we get some really good results.
Yeah, for sure. And I've yet to see a screen where I can't do anything with anybody. You know what I mean? So we can still conduct exercise. We can still move them down the line of progress. And we have clear data to understand what is appropriate for them, what is not, what they should be doing for correctives to make that right now, later, like to make to get rid of that right now thing, right? Like they can go back to the thing with appropriate correctives. Yep. Before we go too much further, let's go through what this is, because I think a lot of listeners won't, like they may have heard FMS, they may have seen it, but I don't think a lot of people are doing this. And I think before we get on the show, I said this is one of the tools I think is very underutilized and underappreciated. But let's talk about what the FMS screen is.
So the functional movement screen itself is 7 fundamental patterns. So we look at a deep squat, a hurdle step, an inline lunge, active straight leg raise, shoulder mobility, trunk stability push-up, and rotary stability. Okay. And there are some clearance tests in there. So we make sure you don't have some shoulder, that you don't have shoulder impingement. We make sure that going into extension doesn't bother your low back. And now we have the ankle clearing, which is fantastic. We struggled for 2 years to put together an ankle clearing. And then Gray's like, yeah, just do this. And we're like, oh. And boom, it's brilliant. It's field expedient. It's a super quick way to just check in on somebody's ankle mobility. And, so much of what we want to do comes from that ground up, and having adequate ankle mobility is just such a key thing. So within those, if we kind of break it down a little bit differently, the leg raise is reciprocal lower body action. One side's going into flexion, one side's staying in extension. You use that every time you take a step.
Yep.
Every time you walk, run, jump, you're going to be doing some sort of split stance. You need to have that good reciprocal hip mobility. We use reciprocal shoulder mobility. We look at how your shoulders are moving in that reciprocal fashion. Almost everything we do has some sort of reciprocal action in the arms, except if we're tied to a barbell. But, if we're going to throw a ball, if we're going to play pickleball, there's going to be some sort of reciprocal arm action that supports that. And we use it in our gait, running and sprinting patterns as well. Trunk stability push-up. Can you resist an extension stress? If you're going to take weights overhead, you need to be able to stabilize and not get pushed back into that extension stress. So does your midsection, does your body respond in a way that helps you prevent that extension? Rotary stability, multiplanar stability, right? You want to do single-sided activities, one arm swings, one arm presses, whatever the case may be. Anything that gets you unilateral or reciprocal action, you're going to need that triplanar stability, the ability to control that force. And then we get into those big 3 patterns, and the ankle mobility becomes super, super important in that. And so inline lunge, if you work with athletes and you're working on any sort of deceleration or change of direction, that's inline lunge. Can you control that pattern? And the reason the stick is involved, so for all 3 of the top patterns, deep squat, hurdle step, inline lunge, we put the stick in place. It's overhead, it's across our shoulders, it's along our spine. And it's there for one simple reason. In all 3 of those patterns, Can you clear that lower body motion without stealing from the upper body?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's not about overhead squatting. The stick is up there to say you had to compensate through your upper body to clear that lower body motion. We want those two things to be separate because we should be able to have independent upper body action from lower body. And so if you're always trying to steal from Peter to pay Paul,
something's going to give. Yeah.
Yeah, something's going to give. So hurdle step, single, double leg to single leg. We use that every time we walk, run, blah, blah, single leg stance. Squatting, symmetrical stance work. We use that a lot, especially in training. It's also how we get down to investigate things. I mean, it's just a fundamental movement pattern. So over that 7 movements plus clearance test, and especially keying in on the ankle clearing, we collect some really good information, and we don't to forecast ahead to the corrective portion of the talk. You're not responsible for fixing everything. Now, 2 things. When you're screening, you're not obligated to understand why they're scoring the way they're scoring. That's not what screening is about. Screening is like taking a blood pressure. If you take a blood pressure and you find somebody with high blood pressure, your next thought should not be, why do they have high blood pressure? The next thought is, the doc needs to see you.
Yeah.
And we need to address this thing. So you're not obligated for why. You're just running blood pressure. You're just doing an eye check, treat it as a movement vital sign. And so you're not obligated to why. You also do not have to fix everything. You just have to fix the right thing. And if you fix the right thing, a lot of other things fall into place.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a simple, so elegantly simple. You know what I mean? Like it's a 15-minute, like you said before, and that's on the long end usually.
Yeah.
And there's 4 possible scores. It's out of 3, but there's 4 possible scores with a 0.
Yep.
And 3 being the ideal. A lot of people get 2s, but then again, I think that the point is like it's super, like it's pretty obvious. Like, yeah, it's some nuance and some specifics to pay attention to, but it's not complicated. So you're not taking a goniometer out and measuring ranges on people. You are visually observing these things, and under like 12-minute test, you can have a very comprehensive understanding of how somebody moves, what they should be perhaps steered away from, or definitely steered away from. And you can give them that data and say, hey, here's what this means. Here's why we're not going to be doing these things. And then, as you alluded to, within the correctives, which is what is outlined in the FMS2 program, is that you can give them specifics on how to address these things, assuming they're not presenting with pain, right? The pain is a referral. We got to stay within our scope as exercise professionals. Pains are zeros, pains are referrals. But within the others, here are your opportunities to improve. Here's how to fix these things so we can then get you doing every single thing within this facility without pain, without future problems, and that you'll move better in everyday life.
100%. I'm a 53-year-old cancer survivor. I've been in the position of not feeling good. And I can tell you that feeling good feels good. And so one of the goals of training should be to feel good. And I think that's an unspoken desire. People don't know to come in and ask for that. They're going to ask to lose 15 pounds. They're going to ask to run a half marathon or a 5K or whatever. They're going to come in with X goal. Very few people will come in and say, I'd really like to not feel good and be in pain all the time.
But do it faster.
Yeah. Can you beat me up so that I just don't feel good? And it's a big reason a lot of people stop exercising.
Yes.
It doesn't feel good.
Right.
Most of us don't continue down the road of things that make us not feel good. So clearing the baseline, moving well, having that positive response. Now your coaching is dropping on that fertile soil. Now somebody's able to access the cue that you're giving them. And that's just it's not just that I'm lazy. Granted, part of the problem. But I would much rather give a cue once and have that person be able to respond and access that piece of information than give them the same cue 50 times.
Yeah.
Every coach listening to this can sit there and think of at least 5 to 10 of their clients or students that they know when Bob and Judy come in, we're going to be doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to be cueing them this,
Yep.
this, because every time they come in, I still have to cue them. There's a better way.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think that a lot of coaches just don't know. They see the symptom in the movement without, again, let's assume they're not doing an FMS or any sort of movement screening. They see the movement present itself or the dysfunction present itself, but they don't know what to do about that.
Mm-hmm.
So again, notwithstanding pain, if it's just something that just you just know, like a good coach probably just, they see it like, ugh, what is that? But I don't think most people know what to do. And that's where the FMS 2 comes in. And there's the goal of that is to help people fix these things. So do you want to go into that
Sure.
a little bit?
So the screen, if you did nothing else with the screen, then say, okay, I screened this person. I found that their ankles are locked up. Here's 3 things that we should probably not push on while those ankles are still locked up. Protect before you correct.
Yeah.
And it can be a hard message for folks. So we're still going to say, hey, let's hit pause on that. I know you got a 5K that you want to prepare for, but I just found a few things that are going to making running tough for you.
Yeah.
Like let's reduce the stress, get you back to running. I'm pretty sure you're going to run better and feel better. So that's happening there. But we're still going to correct. And, these areas of opportunity that show up, how do you open up a leg raise? How do you get somebody's hip mobility to change in a meaningful way to where you no longer need the correctives? If you're still trying to correct the same thing 6 months from now, congratulations. You're a very persistent individual. You have continued to try to work on this thing for an extended period of time. You're either not asking the right question, right? Meaning you're not the corrective drill that you've selected isn't working. And how do you know if your corrective drill is working? Recheck the pattern. You should see it change. Maybe not in score, but scientifically speaking, better's better. So if you get an inch more leg raise, cool, chase that. Yep. Because if we keep encouraging that inch of leg raise change over a 2 to 3 week period, we should see a changed leg raise. So you're not using the right drill. You're not progressing the drills the way that you need to. Or you're continuing to stress that pattern in a way that undoes the work you're doing to change it. And so somewhere in that combination of things. So FMS level 2 is, how do we change this? And in what order do we change it? Because like I said a little bit ago, you don't need to change everything. You need to change the right thing.
Yep.
So if we look at it from a very fundamental standpoint, ankle goes with everything. If you find a restricted ankle, there's never a reason not to start addressing that right away. So ankle goes with everything. Then it's a leg raise. Opening up that hip mobility, a little better lumbo-pelvic control and positioning, a lot of other things start to fall into place. Shoulder mobility, fundamental T-spine and upper limb mobility paired with that lower body reciprocal pattern. Again, a lot of things start to fall into place, right? Then we're going to go after rotary stability. It's a more subtle type of stability work. And hopefully this, if you're using video and you're watching this and you have the video, you see my air quotes. If you're listening to this and you don't have the video, I used air quotes around the concept of stability. But stability is interesting in that there's a reactive, even anticipatory nature to true stability. Nobody's running around the soccer pitch going, every step and every kick of the ball. Nobody's running around feed forwarding their tension and trying to stabilize themselves during the course of a soccer match, right? they're reacting, they're moving, and their body figures that out. So if we look at something like the rotator cuff, right? So good. Kenny, fire your rotator cuff. Right. Yeah, they're not that kind of muscles, right? It's the things that really stabilize that are close to the joint that are these smaller muscles that we would rely on for this initial point of stability. They're not those muscles that you're going to go, got it. They react. They anticipate and react. If your rotator cuff will fire first, it takes 20 to 30% maximum voluntary contraction of those muscles to stabilize the shoulder. That's a level of contraction that you really can't even feel. So if it fires first and does its job, now the pec, the lat, the delt, these big, strong muscles can exert force and move force through the body and through that joint in a pretty safe manner. But if it's late, if the timing isn't there, you got problems.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we work on rotary stability, we're really working on this kind of subtle stability and ability to respond to challenges and perturbations. And then top 3 patterns, we're going to get into trunk stability push-up. We're working on that anti-extension work. Top 3 patterns, it's usually ankles. By the time you've done leg raise, shoulder, rotary, trunk, and you've got ankles moving, usually the top 3 patterns have taken care of themselves.
Yeah.
Everybody shows up at level 2. I want to know how to fix squats. And I'm like, that is the least, you will spend the least amount of time in your movement screening and corrective career correcting squats.
Yep.
Because by the time you clear the rest, squat's there.
Sure. Totally. Yeah.
So yeah, the correctives, and I don't understand that we get people that go through a level 1 and they learn the screen, but then they don't take the next step to learn the correctives.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Like, learn how to change the thing that you just identified as an area of opportunity. And Bob's your uncle.
Yeah. And as you mentioned before, I believe the value provided to a client to understand, like, there's so much opportunity there with homework and warm-ups and just an ability to demonstrate value with the data. I think data's become more and more and more prevalent, and people are more and more and more interested in that stuff. And if you can give them this progress ability to do these things better and their scores improve through the homework that you're doing and they move better and feel better, like, it's just such a no-brainer. And it's so much more rewarding as a fitness professional. I think so much of us talk about, performance in terms of time or weights or those things, but the PRs in movement ability should be first and foremost, but is also so much. I think it's sexy. Like, I think it's like legitimately like so cool to be able to demonstrate that. And then those other things tend to get way better as well. And you don't have people sidelined through pain who then don't come back.
Exactly. I've worked with a lot of people and just the ability to get up and down off the ground and play with the grandkids is a life-changing thing. Now you're the fun grandparent that can get up and down and play and do things, or you're the fun parent that can actually go do the sports with the kids and take them on these adventures. And, that friend of mine and Strong First instructor, Adam Pierre, has a great saying: fitness should serve your life. Yeah. A lot of us have flipped that equation to where our life serves our fitness. Yep. And cool. If you're a competitive athlete or you want to live in that athletic realm, cool. I'm not demonizing that. But there's a lot of life outside of training, outside of fitness. So fitness should serve your life. Are you getting better at life via your fitness? And it's interesting. If you look at ancient training systems, there was a martial component to most ancient training systems. Most ancient training systems were based around training soldiers, right? And it was warfare based. So you were getting these people ready to go to battle. That's the pommel horse in gymnastics. it was not a gymnastics competitive piece of equipment. It was how you train soldiers to be better on horseback. That's
news to me. I didn't know that. That's great. Thank you.
That's where the pommel horse came from. So there were these martial components. Then there were restorative components, because pushing hard and learning combatives is going to beat you up a little bit. So how do you stay well enough to be able to go on the mission, right? And then there's a pedagogical end of things, which is a theoretical body of knowledge that supports the other two. Well, fitness has become our martial art.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And cool. Like that's where we are as a society. Very few of us need to be soldiers, and we're not manual laborers typically. So life has changed, and fitness has become a bigger piece of the pie, so to speak. But the problem with that is we don't do good at the restorative end of things, and we don't have a good body of knowledge to support the other two. We're getting advice off TikTok and Instagram, Pinterest. We leave our education with very little information on how to manage our bodies. Now, as a fitness professional, hey, that's why I have a business, right? People want to know how to get fit. They want to know how to train. They want to know how to feel good, then accomplish their goals. That's why we're here.
Yep.
But clearing this fundamental movement set of things, being able to have that restorative piece, being able to support somebody's fitness goals, it's just a much better combination to everything.
Yeah. And I do think that coaches in the industry, we all want to be better. And there's been at least from my perspective, a massive movement towards this longevity and lifespan and health span thing. Peter T has driven that hard. That's like, there's people coming into my gym talking about things that they had never talked about before. But the idea behind that is live as long as you can and live as well as you can. And I think that we are trying to do that probably with some of the wrong tools right now. I think that we can do those things. We can get people to perform better with their conditioning, and we can get people stronger with their weightlifting, which will translate into both of those things, living longer and living better. But I do think that there's like adding weight to dysfunction isn't serving that. It's not the right tool for the job. It can be the right tool for the job, but we've got to move well first, right? I mean, I think that's the biggest thing, is otherwise, like you said, that people are really interested right now in this idea of playing with their grandkids and great grandkids and doing all the things they want to do with them. And at this very moment in time, I think a lot of gyms are pursuing heavier weights and they're pursuing higher VO2 max, which is really great, but the foundation needs to be built off of moving well first, or it's just going to kick the can down the road, and that we're not actually going to accomplish those things.
100%. And, the classic is, well, I used to work out. I used to work out. I used to run. I used to, I'm a used to could.
Right.
Well, I want to be swinging bells and doing the things I'm doing when I'm 75, 80, 85. Now, the routine obviously will. Aging is aging.
Yep.
And I think that's part of the conversation that a lot of people want to avoid. They're looking at this as anti-aging.
Yeah.
And I get the idea behind that statement, but you are going to age.
Yeah.
Things are going to change.
Yeah.
And so being in a gym situation or having a trainer or, working with somebody that can help you with the adjustments over that lifespan to keep you moving well. Because we don't want to burn out or burn through our joints. Now things happen. If you were an athlete and you got banged up and you had some injuries playing, there's a chance that something's going to give out and you're going to need a surgery. You're going to need I sit here as somebody that's had like 12 or 13 different surgeries. Now only 3 of them were orthopedic. We won't go into my health history. I've had stuff I am not a garage kept single owner that was only driven to church. I'm a high mileage, bent chassis individual. But, I still, even though like one of the things I've got torn labrum in my hip, cam style FAI, high alpha angle, femoral head. I squat full depth. I swing. I do everything I want to do.
Yeah.
Because I know how to work with that,
Yeah.
with that thing that I've got. And I'm not looking to burn through that joint and get a replacement. I'd love to be in a position of having all my original factory parts when they chunk me in the box. But, we'll see. Things happen. But we want this longevity and we want to live well. And I think part of that is training intelligently and maintaining movement quality so that we avoid a lot of the burn through sort of things that people just accept.
Yeah.
I think that's a sad thing about training.
Agreed.
Is people expect it to suck because it should be hard, right? This is going to suck because I need to, whatever. And it's going to hurt. Like pain is somehow accepted.
Yeah. Endorsed a lot of the time, in fact.
Yeah. So people, it's bizarre. People will push through pain, but they don't want to feel uncomfortable going through a movement screen and finding a movement that they can't do or that they struggle with. So I'll push myself through pain and end up with problems and medications and surgeries and, not being able to do the things I want to do. But I'll avoid the little bit of uncomfortableness and that goes as a professional as well. Because the bitter pill within movement screening is you might find out that your programming is not helping people move better.
Right. Yep.
They might be getting fit.
Yeah.
They're not moving better.
Yeah.
So I'm not looking over there, right? I'm gonna avoid that. So I'll avoid being uncomfortable, but I'll push through pain and end up with problems. Come on, there's a better way.
Completely agree. Yeah, it's I think it can be intimidating to pull back that curtain a little bit, but at the end of the day, I think that again, it's not the changes that would be elicited through your understanding of the FMS isn't monumental. We're not just having people, ride bikes or walk, or circling back a little bit to the uncovering what you do in the FMS1. It's not like we're telling people you cannot exercise. It's just, hey, these movements are contraindicated. Like, let's modify this in a way that, like, you're not pushing overhead. We may go horizontal. Like, horizontal might be a great movement pattern for you, but we probably shouldn't put a barbell over your head 150 times as fast as you possibly can.
Exactly.
So I think that's, I think that it can be intimidating, but it's really logical and really the hallmark of an exceptional coach, of somebody who can make those modifications, still prescribe exercise and do it safely and effectively, and then see progress in those movement patterns, which allows them, that client, to see long-term massive success and allows them to live longer and live better.
Absolutely. And not getting the short-term, we need positive short-term responses to get long-term adaptation.
Yeah.
And we get so lost in the short-term responses or the short-term goal that we lose sight of where you're going to be from 10, 20, 30 years from now.
Yeah.
Coach Boyle talks about that all the time. You want to know how good of a strength coach you are? Talk to your athletes 20 years from now.
Yeah.
See how they're doing.
For sure. Sure.
Yeah.
It's really easy to get progress in a conventional way in the gym in 30, 60, 90 days. Like, that's so easy. It's so easy and silly. The long term, like you said, like, let's see what's happening here when that vehicle's pulled out of the garage in 30 years, whether or not it can do the thing.
Yeah, it's definitely, I intend to be swinging and pressing and doing all the things with my kettlebells the day before they put me in the box.
Yeah.
So you can have my kettlebells when you pry them from my cold, dead hands. But, I also want to have quality in those years. not just years.
Yeah.
So, and movement quality is such a big part of that.
Yeah.
Knowing that I can, just feel good, move well, supports moving often, which gets us to all the other goals.
Yeah. I do want to talk before we run out of time, but you guys do have a performance-based screen. I've not been through this. This will be new for me as well, but I've just noticed that on your the FMS Academy, which is a phenomenal resource. Oh my gosh, there's so much stuff in there. Cow. But can you talk about that? What it is, the tests, and again, that's a little bit more on the other side of the spectrum for a performance athlete, performance-based person. Yeah.
Yeah. The FCS. We love our acronyms. So the FCS is the fundamental capacity screen. And so when we break down like movement or performance rather, there is a level of motor control that supports everything else we want to do, right? We need to be able to move force through the body efficiently, both from a lower body, upper body perspective. We need to be able to produce power. We need to be able to store or reuse power. And then we need some postural control that will support what we're going to do. And so when you look at the screen, the fundamental capacity screen, we have a motor control screen that is going to check lower body motor control, upper body motor control. We have the postural control check with a loaded carry. Pardon me, specific amount of load for a specific amount of time. And one thing to add on this concept of movement screening and capacity screening and all these different things, it's managing your minimums. It's clearing the baseline. It's not shooting for perfection. We're not saying you need to be, we're just saying don't be below here, right? Be above this line, go do the things you want to do. So it's not about perfection. Then we have some jumps and bounds to check energy production, and then we have some checks for energy storage or energy absorption. So within those four fundamental capacities, there's a lot of things that we need to be able to do if we're going to push into athletic endeavors. Do Bob and Judy, who just want to get fit, need the FCS? Probably not. Could make an argument for the motor control screen and the postural control screen.
Sure.
They want to go play pickleball? Yeah, we should probably look at those other capacities, because you're going to have to produce power, you're going to have to store or absorb power, and so there's an argument to be made for this kind of coming across the board of looking at these fundamental capacities, and again, it's not sport specific,
right? It's
species specific. Humans should be able to clear these movements. They should be able to clear these capacities, especially if they're going to push into athletic endeavors. And, it's what's one of the biggest problems. I mean, pickleball's ridiculously popular right now, right? And what else is happening? Injuries.
Yeah.
People love it. They play it. They get hurt
Yep.
because they're probably pushing into some movements that they don't have access to and capacities that they did not build in order to play well. And same argument with the running. You don't run to get fit. I think you get fit so you can run well. If you reverse that equation, your running is going to be much better. Your results from running are going to be much better. But if you just pound the pavement to use running to get fit, not many people have that in them without some sort of problem popping up. Right?
Yeah.
So I think,
Yeah, I think the performance is such a relative term, right? Like as the conversation was before, the people want to keep doing the cool things they're doing for the rest of their lives. And that conventionally would be considered as an athletic, like a sport. And more and more people are playing sports for longer, but there's a lot of stuff in just life that they're going to want to keep doing that would be considered a performance-based thing for someone in their 70s, 80s, and 90s that it sounds like would be uncovered and be able to demonstrate progress through program design with this set of tests.
Yes. And, as with an aging population, either sarcopenia or it was either somebody, it might have been Atia or somebody else, called it power penia, where, you got that power loss that you get.
Yeah.
And we tend to think like, oh, I don't need power. I'm 70. What do I need power for? Well, responding appropriately to a potential fall is a power moment where you are going to have to respond and catch your center of mass and bring it back, which is the other thing with balance. People will come in and say, I want to work on my balance. Okay, cool. I get that. But balance is more than standing on one leg.
Right.
Balance is the ability to lose, then go get and bring back your center of mass without bad things happening.
Yeah.
And so that is a power moment, and we need to train that way. One of the reasons I'm such a fan of the kettlebell swing is it is a power metric, not a plyometric, but is a power metric exercise that allows us to do a lot of power training without the impact and without the cost, the orthopedic cost of things like plyometrics and jumps.
Yep. Love it. Man, I feel like we could go for hours and hours and hours and keep talking about what the FMS as an organization has for education and practical use of these things. But I want to be respectful of your time and everyone else's, and probably be a good place to.
Episode 2.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because there's so much. I mean, again, I went through the FMS, I don't know, 9 or so years ago, went through the FMS too, and there's so much more on there now that has just made it super accessible for coaches to help refine movement and help serve their clients better, get long-term results, and do the things I think like we're trying to do these days, help people live better and just move that continuum back a little bit instead of chasing performance as would be conventionally known, and going from the baseline first, building on a solid foundation.
So big foundation, higher peak.
Totally. Absolutely. Brad, thank you so much. Where should people go to learn more and pursue some of these things? So
functionalmovement.com. Get on the website, check out the academy, check out the things that are available there. I hate to even say this, but the Secrets of DVD series is coming up on 20 years old. Some of it is already 20 years old, and still a good resource. Like, it has stood up over time to be a solid perspective on changing movement and training. And I close with this. I would not be involved with this if I couldn't still be a knuckle dragger.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to swing heavy bells, press heavy bells. I want to go for hikes. I want to do, and I'm a knuckle dragger. I like moving iron. Right. You can have my kettlebells when you pry them from my cold dead hand. So if I was involved in something that had me in purgatory for a year trying to perfect my movement before I was training, I'm not going to support that.
Yeah.
So the goal of the FMS is that move often piece, but how we get there is so important.
Beautiful. Great. Love it. Thank you so much, Brett. Great
Kenny,
to chat.
Thanks so much.
Thanks very much for listening. Now go out and change some lives. Don't forget, you can join our group at strengthcoachcollective.com.